Sales overall in the U.S. increased the most. We did a total of 87 aircraft here, which was approximately 28% of the market. And that actually increased from the year before, which I think was more like 22 or 23%. We did approximately 72% of our sales were outside the United States, which is representative again of a global expansion. We are leading sales, which was a little bit apropos because of the 22 enjoying its 40th year. Our number one sales last year were in Australia, followed by China, and then Canada and England. And it is interesting to watch each year as the sales kind of pick up and move around the world, basically depending on how the economies do, how the particular industries do, how the dollar's faring, those type of items. But the last year they were all pretty successful on them. Regarding the R66, we have delivered over 900 R66s to date, and once again, we're pleased to report hardly any problems with it. One of the things that I can tell, you can call me on it if you want, but if you really want to know how well an aircraft is operating, just go online and look at their service bulletins or look at the number of ADs that are issued. We're very pleased to show and to see that not many ADs and not many service bulletins have been issued on the R66. And we take great pains, and our engineering spends a lot of time taking a look at everything out in the field and making certain that the aircraft has a real high reliability rate, which translates into more usage, and it's doing very, very well on there. So since I mentioned that we had 900 R66s, I can add that we've produced 4,800 R22s and over 6,900 R44s to date. So very, very, very proud of all the different aircraft that are out there flying, which is a great responsibility to us. And a little bit later here, I'll talk about the service industry. As can be expected with an increasing fleet of R66s out there, our annual flight hours are also increasing. Last year alone, the R66 flew approximately 250,000 flight hours, and that's based on Rolls-Royce's utilization rates that they provide us with based on their EMU. And in the next couple months, Rolls-Royce has advised us that the R66 will pass the 1 million flight hours mark, which is pretty good, especially when you go back to relating to how many service bulletins or ADs have been issued. So it's becoming a very reliable, dependable aircraft, and that is what we like to build. Based on our own in-house utilization rates, our engineering department has determined that over the last 40 years of production, starting with that first R22, that the Robinson fleet in total has now flown over 40 million flight hours. That's 40 years, 40 million flight hours. We are everywhere around the world. We're everywhere you're supposed to be, and my understanding is we're in some countries that we're not supposed to be. We have nothing to do with that, but we have been in every type of climate, under every type of condition. I think Q's in the audience here, and I know he's been to the North Pole, the South Pole, and he's been around the world a couple times. So it does testify to the aircraft. Looking forward for 2019, we of course remain very optimistic. There's a lot of changes going along, a lot of evolutions that are occurring in the aircraft. Our current weekly production is 1 R22 per week, 2 R66s per week, and 4 R44s per week. And that's what we're holding at the moment as we go through. The different improvements and things that we're making and that we're going on is, first of all, in all the 2019 models, the GTX 335 transponder with ADS-B out is standard. In the United States, it's mandatory. In 2020, we figured there was no reason to wait, and we might as well start getting the aircraft equipped now. People are going to own them in a year, and they're going to need it anyways. If anybody has any Robinson products and they need to get the ADS-B, we actually have information online that they can take to the radio shop, so it should be a clean transfer for everybody as we go through it. We're proud to announce the Avidyne IFD 400 series, which is a GPS comm nav, which fits in the center console. On there, it is both a touchscreen and, to somebody of my age, really nice, it has knobs. Okay? But what's really good is that it can go down in the lower center console, so you don't have to have the pilot side console, and then it actually allows you to Wi-Fi the GPS information up on an iPad, so you can pick your various size of iPad that you like, and you can have the information is duplicated right there. So for GPS and nav information, it's wonderful to have it right there in front of you. If you switch the aircraft over to to training mode where you don't need anything like that, you get to remove the iPad and fly it without it, so you clean it out. It gets rid of the pilot side console, which I think is a benefit and gives the aircraft a lot more options when you're using it to fly on there. We've also certified now pretty much about every option you can think of for the R66, including the lithium battery, the wire strike kit, heated seats, cargo hook, and of course the cargo hook kit that we now have approved allows the pilot to fly from either seat, which includes a second set of gauges, the torque and gas temperature, which are located in left door, which allows the pilot to monitor them as they do the cargo hook. We have already sold a couple into Canada, and we're really interested to see the results in there. We think it'll be an excellent aircraft, given that it can lift 1,200 pounds. I think most of the things that people want to do will fit within that range on there. Also, for the R66, one thing that we found very interesting is the ox tank, and we have one on display at the show here that holds 43 gallons of fuel. One of the interesting things that I found is that over half of the ships that are being ordered now, the R66, are included the ox tank, which has an additional 2-hour range, which gives you 5 hours of total endurance in the helicopter. This has proved to be a really boon for different industries, different areas, whether it's the Australian outback or portions of Russia, where it's tough to find places to find fuel. Not that you're going to fly directly, but allows you to do side trips and gives more versatility on it. And it's something we've been really impressed with on there. Also, on both the R66 and the 44 models now, we've totally included and spread out our avionic options with the 1060 and the 700 touch displays, and both of which now allows you, of course, to include the Genesis Autopilot and the SAS system, which is proving to be a very popular option. Over 70% of the R66s we made last year included the Genesis Autopilot. So again, it's a very good feature. We're just trying to get the price down. I think if we could get it down there, it's obviously proven itself as a safe system. If we could do something like that and get it in more aircraft, we think it would be really helpful to this industry and to the sales of our helicopters. We continue to lead and invest in product support. As I said earlier, that is an area that is very, very important to us. A helicopter is useless if you can't get parts and you can't keep it flying. And it's something that we have worked for, all the years that I've been there, over 20 years, and have helped run product support. And it's something that we've really pushed on. The first, level of defense there is the fact that we have over 480 service centers and dealers worldwide, so that people can get immediate support. No matter where you're flying, if you're going cross country or something, you can always find a service center or somebody that can help you out. But it's also when they get a hold of you, being able to get parts and components on it. Once again, the major magazines, Professional Pilot and Vertical, have, through their own surveys and stuff, our ranking still #1, and in fact it's increased slightly, and it's something we don't take lightly, and something that we know it has to be earned every year, and all it takes is a bad month or a bad experience, and then we will lose a customer, and it's something that we will never lose sight of. And towards that end, we actually started changing some things last year just to improve it, because we know with so many aircraft out there that we have to make service a priority. So we actually are converting and building a 38,000 square facility, remodeling one that will be just strictly tear down, inspection, overhaul facility dedicated to the market. And that is so that we can shorten the lead times, we can bring in cores, we can change things around. But we continue to grow in that area, because I really do want to get the lead times when people are ordering field overhaul kits or spare parts. We want to get it as short as possible. And I know that means everything to people. We're also continuing to bring various operations, various machining things in-house. It may be boring to a pilot that we brought in a whole broaching operation last year, but I'll tell you, it cut our broaching time down from about 3 to 4 weeks to 2 to 3 days, okay? And the quality is better. Okay? We didn't save anything on money, but I guarantee you it's a better part. And that's what we love to do in-house, and that's what we'll continue to do. And when we walk around the shop, we're always looking for things like that that we can do on there. So we will stay and keep abreast of the product support. Projects that we're going forward in 2019, and some of these, I have to admit, they're a repeat from last year, but we continue to work on them. One, of course, is the PAFI initiative, which is a Piston Aviation Fuels initiative. We continue to work with the industry on that. We've pretty much done most of our testing. We know that some of the fuel companies have come out now with reformulated fuels. I'm very hopeful that the testing and everything will be done in through the end of this year, and that they'll be able to have something that they can start putting in place next year. It's kind of out of our hands, but we have raised our hand and want to be the first to support it and go, because we do think it's necessary and needs to be done. We are completing a cockpit video recorder that actually we should have out here probably in June or July. It's a camera system that'll be able to mount on the 22, the 44, or the 66 that allow you with a USB stick to record what's going on outside, looks at the instruments. It's an invaluable tool both in training and in sightseeing. It gives a lot of feedback and stuff to the pilot, and something that we know people want. And also we're finishing up on a data recorder, and that's turned out to be a much bigger project than we anticipated, only because we needed to change over all of the instruments, things like the governor and the tachometers, to be able to do electronic. And it's something that when people get in the ship, we don't want them to know the difference. We want it to be exactly the same. And when you start talking about things like bringing up the needles and wanting them to have the same rate of change, it's really important. But we are finishing up on that. We're in the final stages. And certainly by next year, the ships that we'll be delivering should have that in there, on there. But also the information that will be able and available to the pilot is obviously any overspeeds that they have, rotor engine, but it'll also do the cylinder head, oil temperature, and any of the information that's necessary required for foreign regulations and commercial operations on there. Obviously, for accident investigation, we think it'll be a tremendous benefit, and we intend to include both GPS and aircraft control positioning information on there. What will be nice about it is obviously the pilot, if they get an exceedance, they'll be able to look at it on their own iPhone or on another instrument just to see that they have it. They won't be able to change it or do anything about it. That will be at the level of the mechanic who'll be able to plug into the system itself. But I think it'll be invaluable information, especially if you have flight schools or people that are multiple people using the same aircraft. It's always kind of nice to know what the guy before you did, right? So that's pretty much most of the information that we've had. I will tell you that Frank is getting along nicely. He's still at home. And obviously he couldn't be here. He's retired from the public life. He does have a form of dementia, but he's happy. He watches aviation shows all the time. And when I was there last Friday having lunch with him, I told him that I would wish everyone very well in the industry for him, that he totally misses that, not being here. So with that, I will open it up. If anybody has any questions or anything that I can answer, please feel free to ask me them. Yes?
On the recorders, as far as the data information, the cameras and recorders, is that through the entire fleet? Are you going through the 22s on that, or will it be how it works?
Yeah, the question you asked was on the data recorders, are we going through the entire fleet? You actually already have it in the 66 because you have the EMU.
You have the EMU.
So where we really need, that was interesting. What we really are trying to do, that distracted me. There we go. All right. Is doing it for the piston helicopters, and because we don't have that type of information there. And so it's to provide similar information that can be recorded in both the 22 and the 44s.
Will that be optional for the U.S. market, or where it's not mandated?
No, once we do it, it'll be permanent part of the aircraft themselves.
So then you wind up then, I guess, with a side benefit of having an engine monitor.
Right.
Yeah, as well.
Exactly.
I mean, that'll be displayed on the panel like the JTIs or any of those.
The side benefit will be that you will have it, and so you can monitor it. Not necessarily during the flight, but when you get down on the ground and stuff, you'll be able to check it as we go through. and more importantly, the mechanic can take a look at the aircraft itself. And that's something that we will put in there. I didn't want to scare the Aussie pilots when I said, yes, we can check and see what if you're flying within all the parameters. I noticed I raised a couple eyebrows then, and then we were talking about it. Any other questions? Yes.
Recently, one of your aircraft was flying with an electric aircraft system. Just want to get your read on people converting your aircraft to electric power.
This question was, we did recently have, I think down in Orange County in California there, they actually converted and put an electric motor in a 44 and they flew it. I believe they got up to 80 miles for 20 minutes on there. And the reason they said they did it, we weren't involved with the process. We knew they were doing it, but we actually weren't directly involved with it. And the reason they said they did it was because our aircraft are the most efficient platform. I couldn't agree more. And I do think that it's probably the right way to go if you're going down that road. I mean, the only thing to remember though is you had one pilot on board and you could only fly for 20 minutes at 80 knots. So when we get to the point where you start getting competitive or you start getting a utilization or an area where that would make sense, then we'll be all over it. We are happy to work with people and to talk about these things. And it's someday, I'm not going to say the industry's not going to get there. I don't see it in the near term, but it's interesting to watch all these experiments and stuff go on. That's how aviation develops, and it's good to see it. So we're actually very proud of it, and we're very pleased that they selected an R44. Yes, sir.
I think it was last year you were talking about how with the Uber Elevate initiative that you could see a way for Robinson to kind of plug into that potentially, perhaps at the end of medium or longer routes. I know you attended the Uber Elevate in LA in May. Did you kind of take that idea any further with them, or have you looked at it more?
His question is about the Uber Elevate in LA and their push for metropolitan traffic and stuff. And we've had some conversations with them. What's interesting to me, and actually everybody here that owns a helicopter, we're actually already there today. A helicopter can land anywhere. And it is, what I really like about these facilities is that they are building heliports, so they call it a different word. They say that it's going to be quieter, that kind of remains to be seen. But a lot can be done now. And these metropolitan cities and areas of developing different heliports, different ways to fly, to get in and out of them. And you can use the helicopters of today. They already exist. I love the different little apps that they have so that you can call on demand and get a flight. We do have people in LA that are actually working with all the various operators of helicopters so that when people need a helicopter and they want to get from, say, LA to Santa Barbara, or LA to Palm Springs, that they can do it very easily in a helicopter. And that is going on as we see, and that hopefully continues to grow. And we want to encourage that as much as we can. So, but I look at them and say, oh my God, the R44, R66, it'll do what you're trying to get to, it'll do it now.
How does that tie in with Part 135 then, and this on-demand call for aircraft versus Uber, where there's really no regulation?
Well, I'm not going to get into the regulatory part, but clearly, all of our aircraft, and by the operators, they have 135, so they can do it today. So some of the questions and problems that arise, trying to go outside the aviation industry, I think it's they're going to run afoul of that. A lot of these aircraft that you see, obviously, they haven't. When you start carrying people, it's a whole different animal than when you're just carrying, pizzas or whatever on there. And I think that's a very important distinction. And that's why when we look at Uber, we say we're ready now. We have people out there that have 135s that can actually transport people and cargo on there. Yes?
Last year you talked briefly about diesel power. Have you thought any more on where that might go, or if you want to take that any further?
Pete Riedel, our head engineer, thinks about it every day. We're pushing forward on it. We're still in R&D, so I don't really have much that I want to report. But we're convinced it's a good way to go. We're looking at the possibility of dropping a diesel engine in an R44. It's still under development. There's issues regarding heat, regarding vibration, but there's obviously a lot of good benefits if you can if you can do it. And we're slowly but surely working through them. And I still think it's a positive for the future, but obviously I didn't come out and start talking about it yet because I don't think we're there yet with all the solutions. But yeah, we're investing quite a bit of R&D in that area.
What would be the benefits of diesel?
Well, there's several benefits. One is it'll add a couple thousand feet of altitude performance. So you take a Raven 2, you can go that much higher because you're diesel. The fuel burn on it, from what we see, is right now in a Raven 2, you're burning about 16 gallons an hour of fuel. In a diesel, you're talking about like 12 gallons an hour. So you're obviously, you can save a lot of fuel. There's a lot of places in the world, some of you guys in the United States are going to be shocked, where avgas is difficult to get, very difficult to get. The thought of being able to have Jet A or diesel fuel is tremendous. And there's a demand for that. And we hear that all the time for people. So these are reasons, in fact, I'm hit up constantly by people, especially overseas, that are like, how is that diesel going? We would really like to see it. So I think there's an opportunity there if it can be done, but we're only going to do it if we can do it right. And so we're taking our time trying to go through and develop something.
You got a timeline in mind?
R&D is a tough one, you know, to say a timeline. Whatever I say, in fact, I'm pretty good at betting against engineering, and I always bet the long. And I don't lose too many bets, which is unfortunate. I would love to lose the bets, right? I'd love it to be quicker. But the problem is you don't know what you don't know. Okay? But it's true. And as you get into things and you see things. And also because I know Pete and Frank had the same philosophy, is that once they get something and say, great, this works, then they'll stop and they'll say, all right, let's try it a different way. I want to see if this works. And that takes time. And you look at them and say, well, we can make it work. And then they'll tell you, no, but I want to make it work better. I want to make it more reliable. I want that. And I'd rather take the time now, while I don't have aircraft in the air, than to have something in the air and find something later. So we have to be methodical about this and go through it. But we are continuing to work on it. Yeah, go ahead.
That facility, you're talking about 38,000 square feet for overhaul. Is that more dedicated to speeding up production of kits, or is that more dedicated towards in-house overhauls and bringing them back to you?
It's more for the field. It's not actually, well, it does help a bit on the in-house kit. And Guy's question was the repair facility on the outside, if it was mostly to help our in-house overhauls or the field. Really, it does both, because it's a dedicated teardown and the inspectors are there, but it's both component and aircraft on there. But it really is the component trying to turn things around. We're adding a whole separate hydraulic cleaning system. We have one in the main building so that we can do that much quicker on the other side. What I keep focusing on is the turnaround time out in the field. Okay? It's something that really, somebody needs to get something turned around. We should be able to do it in a day. I mean, that's just, if I can't give them an exchange, I should be able to give them another part. That's how our industry survives. And when I get comments, and I'm learning more and more about the jet, the turbine market, and people tell me that months is an acceptable time period, I can't go along with that. It just, there's got to be ways to improve things, and so we keep asking the questions, why? And fortunately, we're at least in a position where we can ask it, and so we keep trying to push things. And that's what we're trying to do in-house, with the cleaning systems and everything else to do it. So it does both. It brings it in, and it is to, we're going from, I think the facility that we have now is like 8,000 square feet. So you can imagine, the increase in size. Believe me, the guys that are in the department are ecstatic. But we also now can get some dedicated cleaning machines and other things to make this move a lot faster and more efficient. Anything else?
With the R66, the aircraft you're delivering today, would they be predominantly private or commercial? What are you seeing in terms of the breakdown of the customer profile for, say, 66 customers?
What he asked for is, what is the customer breakdown of the typical R66 user? And the answer is, I'm not sure, because we do sell through a network of dealers around the world, and so who they're actually selling it to, a lot of them, what I have found out in this business is even individual owners, most of them in their countries are smart enough to put them in some type of a commercial application just so they can get the tax benefit. Okay, so now how often are they truly using it in that business, and how often is it pleasure? And if I'm enjoying what I'm doing, can I call it business, or do I have to call it pleasure? So it is an amalgamation, and I'm not making light of your question, but it is really interesting to watch people when they tell you about trips and stuff that they say, and then they say, well, of course it's business, you know. But the personal, private flight, the one that I know from a safety standpoint that the FAA and everybody really looks at, we do have a large portion of that. And we go into it knowingly and knowing that there are certain requirements and things that you really want to push with people to set limits and to make certain that they fly safely on there. And it's something that we take very seriously. Any other questions? All right, going once.